cause natural disasters every time I come to life.
Cause I'm the master of iambic pentameter. Basically take it in like do the A parameters. I excel when I query XML. Log this to your history list. This evangelist is known to do it well. Man, please, I'm a beast with freeze, changing speeds like approval state machines. And best believe that within WC, we're way past the syntax of modern day cloud technology. The truth hurts and the logs don't lie. Expose these guys like Hawkeye's API.
Don't ask why. We touch the sky.
Hi there, it's Palesa here today. Beautiful day out here in South Africa. Anyway, I work as a technical evangelist for Nintex and I cover Southwest, East, and Central Africa. So today's demo is fairly simple. It's just actually a little solution that I've put together using our Nintex platform. And it's a timesheet solution. And I mean, it's been built using some of the best practice methodologies that we went through in our best practice webinar. So just to talk about the scenario a little bit, I mean, the scenario is fairly simple. An employee needs to submit a weekly timesheet for the manager to review and approve. Obviously, the timesheet must have the latest projects that the employee could be working on, as well as some sort of way of inputting the total number of hours that they've worked. From a manager's point of view, they would like to allow employees to go back a certain number of weeks to prevent a major backlog of overdue timesheets and would like to have a consolidated view of each and every single employee's timesheet. So the tools that I've chosen to use for this webinar are SharePoint 2013. I'll briefly show you a few tricks using lookups, content types, particularly with the Nintex forms, validation that you can do on SharePoint, that's server-side validation, Nintex workflow. I'll touch a bit on conditional start, user-defined actions, data manipulation. I've got a really good example of how to use a for each loop as well as state machines. And then from a forms point of view, some of the stuff I'll be touching on are repeating sections and form variables, runtime functions, as well as rules and validation on Nintex forms. So jumping straight into my SharePoint 2013 environment, you can see that I've got a timesheets SharePoint 2013 team site that I've put together. So this is just a basic site. And what I've done is I've put a webpart page as the landing page, just to make it easy for the employees to navigate and find their way around. So if, for example, I wanted to submit a weekly timesheet, I would click on the tile over there. What you're going to see is a Nintex form. Obviously, each employee can see their details over there. I don't know if you guys saw that red pop up, but it actually checks if that person can, in fact, or is authorized to submit a timesheet. So if I click on this week ending date, I can select the week that I want to submit this timesheet for. As you can see here, I've got a little status column or a drop down that shows the status of my timesheet because it can go from draft to submitted to approved, right? So the employee can at any time submit any projects that they've worked for this week using this repeating section over here. So what I've done is I've actually put in a list lookup control and I've concatenated just the project category and the name of the project in this drop down just to make it easier. So let's start filling out some data and I can show you how this workflow works. So I'm just going to go ahead, populate some dummy data, and then over here I'm going to put 8 hours. Notice how this highlighted over there. That's some of the conditional formatting you can use with Nintex. Perhaps you might want to use that to ensure that employees know that they might be working overtime or they're actually right on time. So it's really up to you. So I'm just going to add about 2 line items. Let's go ahead. I've added a decimal there. So I've actually added some validation. And if I save this, what's going to happen is that it's going to be saved to my list, but it will still be in draft mode. But if I submit, what I've actually done using the text forms is to change the status of this to submitted, and then my workflow kicks off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and submit this form. You'll see that I get a nice little or generic pop-up from the page saying by submitting this form you're responsible for your data and all of that, so you can change that. So I'm just going to click on OK. And then after a few seconds, my timesheet will get submitted and thus my workflow will kick off. So my form has been submitted, and obviously my workflow will kick off in a little bit. I'm just going to refresh this page and show you guys that there it is. It's been submitted. It's picked up some of the metadata, my hours for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. These are obviously totals for that week. And remember, going back to the introduction of the scenario, you obviously want to break down per project. I'll show you that a bit later. So the workflow has gone ahead and sent a notification to myself over here. I remember I'm logged in as Eden. And if I download these images, you can see that I've added a bit of customization over there. It says, "Dear Eden Stafford, your timesheet for this week has been successfully submitted, and you will receive further notifications regarding the status of your timesheet." So it's always nice to send, users those type of notifications so that they know that, oh, it's gone through successfully, right? So now what's going to happen is the workflow is set to go to the employee's manager to approve the timesheet. So what I'm quickly going to do is I'm going to click on my remote desktop connection and log in as Brett, who is actually Eden's manager. So how I've built this is that if you log in as Brett, for example, and you open his emails, the task that you would have received from the workflow notification will include some of the detail from the timesheet itself. So if I go into this notification, you'll see that it's picked up some of the metadata. Dear Brett, an approval task has been assigned to you regarding the timesheet below. So as you can see, all of my data in the repeating section has been put into a nice HTML table. And not only that, but I've also put in totals to show the whole weekly total for that employee. And if I scroll further down, you'll see that lazy approval is enabled. So what that means is after reading all of this information, Brett can simply respond with a keyword such as approve or reject, or even use one of those words in a sentence to authorize or reject the timesheet. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that, and then the workflow should continue off in a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to open the workflow history. So let's quickly go into that item. I'm just going to view the workflow history. As you can see, I've got a running workflow over here. You can click on that. And then you'll see that we have an intuitive graphical view of where we are in the process. So it's still waiting for it to pick up the lazy approval. And what I'm going to do quickly is that I'm just going to hit refresh on this page. Then you guys will see that it's picked up that Brett has approved this over here. And then what it's done is it's gone ahead and set the timesheet status to approved. And then now it's changed states into a state called process timesheet, where I actually read some of those repeating sections. And then at the very end, I output that information into a timesheet report list. And then I simply in my state machine and exit my workflow. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my home page. As you can see, the timesheet status has been changed to approved over here. And then that means now if I go into my timesheet report list, I can then see that I've got 2 new items from that repeating section that I filled out earlier on. And that's how the workflow works in a nutshell. So just to recap again, how this solution works is that an employee can submit a new weekly timesheet. They have the ability to save it as a draft. And if they're ready, they can obviously submit it for approval. On approval, what I've done is with the notification, I've actually added some of the detail that the employee would typically capture on this repeating section over here into the email to leverage some of the features such as lazy approval so that the manager knows exactly what it is they're approving. They don't have to open a task or actually look at the original item. This is just to make it easier for them. And then once they approve it, it goes into timesheet reports. And remember, I know I didn't show this earlier. I'm just going to open my workflow history again. Should that person reject the timesheet, what I've done is I've added a state to request the employee to review that timesheet. So if I just make this step smaller, you'll see that over here, if the manager should reject this, it's going to change the timesheet back to a draft mode, which means the employee can edit it again. And then it's going to change states into review state. It's going to notify the employee that this has been rejected by your manager with the following comments, and it's going to wait for them to make an update on that timesheet. So remember, when they submit it again, the status changes. So the workflow will continue on, and then it will resubmit it again to the manager, build the new HTML table, because remember, the data will change. And then obviously that HTML table will be put into the workflow itself. And the manager can, again, use a lazy approval or opening the task, they can approve and reject this. So that's pretty much how this process works in a nutshell. I will be doing another video where I'll go into detail on the workflow as to how I got some of the fancy mechanisms in there, such as building the HTML table. And I'll talk about this interesting UDA that I've used over here, which has allowed me to read my repeating section and perform some data manipulation. Well, then, I hope that this post has given you an idea of how you would typically build a timesheet solution using the Nintex platform. I will be doing a follow up post where I will go into the detail of the workflow in great depth and explain some of the fancy stuff that I've done in the background. I would also like to remind you guys that if you are coming to InspireX, please reach out to any of the TEs if you have any questions. They will be there. Once again, it's Palesa. I'd like to thank you guys for watching this. Cheers.